This is the New York City FC Pregame Live. Today, New York City returns to the five boroughs to take on FC Cincinnati. And now, here are your hosts, Glenn Crooks and Matty Lawrence.
All right. Welcome, everybody. It is a Star Wars themed day, so we're going to spend just a moment on that and welcome you to what is a massive match for New York City FC because they are playing the hottest team in Major League Soccer, right in there with the Vancouver Whitecaps and the New England Revolution, by the way. But FC Cincinnati coming into this match at Citi Field against New York City, having won 5 straight, but New York City coming off their first road win of the year, a very solid 1-0 win at Toronto FC. So, I'm Glenn Crooks. There's Matty Lawrence, Chris Sakonis with us as well. And we're going to be bringing you the live commentary of this one. And that begins at 2:45 Eastern with the pregame show with the head coach, Pascal Janssen. And then we've got this game. But first, Matty, just a couple things here. Let's see what I can come up with here. I've got something I want to share. First of all, it took everybody a little bit longer to get in today, no matter where you were coming from. It is the five-borough bike tour, which was pretty cool, I thought. So this is the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway as I was driving in with the great Dr. Mary Chaco, my wife, and she took the photo as well, as you see, one side of the road is closed. Fortunately, it's the one going the other way, Matty, and not on the inbound. So we were a little delayed, but it wasn't too bad. And then the next thing you've got is, and the big slogan is, "May the 4th be with you," because it's a Star Wars theme day. Now, Matty, you may be surprised by this, and maybe you won't be, but this is one of 7 theme nights or days with Star Wars associated in Major League Soccer. So New York City is not the only club doing this sort of thing. And
you mean MLS is full of originality? Is that what you're saying?
Well, listen, here's what I did. I have to admit that I went on Chat GPT and I wrote in, "Can you describe anything that associates Star Wars with soccer?" And here's what they came up with. J.J. Abrams, who is the director of The Force Awakens, which I've only seen the first Star Wars, so I haven't seen any of the subsequent ones. So I have not seen this, but they introduce a character, BB-8. And J.J. Abrams said the BB-8 was partly inspired by a soccer ball. And I think you can see it there.
Yeah, you definitely can. I'd rather take up crocheting than watch any of the Star Wars films, and I haven't seen any of them. But, that's just me.
Well, I didn't have an interest past the first one, but the first one's pretty entertaining. It's got that wry humor to go along with.
Well, I'll have to go back and watch it if it's a bit humorous. Yeah, I've never seen it.
Now, if we're fortunate enough today, we will see one of our colleagues, perhaps involved in some of the celebration here. But I can't promise anything because we don't have it in hand yet. What we do have is FC Cincinnati in the house, New York City in the house. And if you look out onto the field, the goalkeepers for both sides with their coaches are starting their warm-up activity as we are here in Queens. And I think let's just first, this Toronto win, Matty, yeah. And it was a win that was significant for New York City because it was their first on the road this year. I want to get your thoughts after we hear from Pascal Janssen regarding this win, as I spoke to him as part of the pregame show coming up at 2:45 on the network. But here's Pascal.
Yeah, that's something that was also emphasized going into this season, obviously. We were very close a few times on the road. If it's not Miami, if it's not Atlanta, very close. But close is not good enough. And that's something we realized really, really well. Now that it did happen, we got the 3 points and we deserved it also. Is a huge boost for us, but nothing more than that. We just look forward to playing the next game, away or at home.
Okay, so sort of downplaying it, saying obviously it was a goal because of the struggles. We know that it's really only the second road win in the last 21 games away from home for New York City FC. The previous one was in September against the Red Bulls at Red Bull Arena. But how significant is that? You're the player, you're on this team, and you've been with it since 2023 when this really sort of anemic road record began, when you only had one win in that whole season. What's your sense as a player?
I think there had to be a win at all costs sort of manifesto, or however you want to class it. It had to be win. The performance is irrelevant. We've got to get a win under our belts away from home. But I will add to that, and I said it last week as well, Glenn, I thought it was a very good performance too.
Right.
A very good away performance. It wasn't a high-quality performance full of wonderful moves and nutmegs and Cruyff turns, but it was a solid defensive performance as a whole away from home at a place that's quite hard to go. Toronto were doing okay at the time. They've got some good players in their side. I thought they kept the good players pretty quiet. Insigne, we know, wasn't playing, but he came on for a bit. Bernardeschi was kept relatively quiet. Glenn, I thought it was what an away performance should be. Solid, stout, stoic, and then if you can nick a goal, as they did from the penalty spot through Alonso Martinez, you win 1-0 and you come away with a goal. I think bare minimum when you go away from home, you try and leave with a point. You try and leave with a clean sheet and a point bare minimum. And if you can get a goal through a set piece or however it may come, a moment of brilliance, then that's what you take from it. I thought it was a really solid performance, but now you have to move on from there. And obviously, firstly, that comes here at home. But then in the next away performance as well, you have to remember what made you good against Toronto, Glenn. I really do. And I think as a player, you will take those positives into this game, but more specifically the next away game as well, I think.
So Martinez scored from the spot, as Matty said. He's now 2 of 3 from the penalty spot this season. 6th goal of the year, which is tied for second in the league. Only a couple of players with 7, Baribo at Philadelphia, that are ahead of Alonso in the overall goal scoring rankings in the league. And if we look at it more closely, Matty, it's he has scored coming into this one. By the way, he has scored in 5 straight home matches dating back to last year. All 6 of his goals have come in the second half, which is generally an integral time to put in your goals. 25 goal contributions in 38 regular games with New York City FC, and he leads MLS since the end of Leagues Cup last year in goals scored. That means that he's ahead of Messi and Suarez and Benteke, that sort of crew. But I want to review one other thing, and then I'm very anxious to see what you have to say about this. Monsef Bakar, and this is in terms of support for the talisman, where you need a second goal scorer, at least one more guy getting it done regularly. Monsef Bakar, no goals, and this is in 2025. No goals in 278 minutes. Agustin Ojeda, no goals in 410 minutes. Julian Fernandez, without a goal for 276 minutes. He scored a home match against New England with his right foot, in fact, to make it a 1-1, and then New York City came back and won that game. Hannes Wolf, he has 3 goals on the season, but he hasn't scored since March 29th when he had his first brace against Atlanta. So I think you get my point.
Yeah, we catch
and we have a bit of
absolutely sledgehammered home. Yeah.
Yes, and this change that we have in the 11, we're not exactly sure how it's going to be set up, but right now we'll talk about that too. But what's your initial reaction as far as the lack of support here for the man?
It doesn't surprise me. Yes, thank you for hammering it home, and I mean that sincerely. You've given us the stats, but we don't need the stats. We watch every week, and we know that. And unless Alonso Martinez scores, there's a real struggle for goals. And that's a huge problem. I just saw a stat as I was coming in today, actually, that Brentford have, and I know it's a different league, but Brentford have 3 players all with 10 goals. They're the only team in the Premier League with 3 players with 10 off, with 3 players in double figures. And that's really important. I think that's even more important when you don't have somebody who's going to bang in 33 goals like a Mo Salah or somebody like that.
Right.
And which Alonso Martinez, yes, he's a good player, but if he gets 15, that's a good season for him. I don't envisage him getting 25 or 30 like maybe a David Villa would, or players of that ilk. So I guess my point being, there needs to be 3 players getting double figures. There has to be.
Right.
And it just doesn't happen. I don't think
you
we'll
look
get 3 players getting 5 goals.
Well, you look at the LA Galaxy winning MLS Cup. By the way, the Galaxy only one of 2 teams that have failed to win a match. CF Montreal is the other, who New York City will play next week. They had a very disappointing ending at home to their game yesterday against Philadelphia, where they gave up the late goal, lost 2-1. But the Galaxy had 3 guys up top, and you couldn't, if you tried to figure out which one you wanted to mark more closely, it would never work because of their impact.
And that's such a good point, is if you are FC Cincinnati today, what do? You just keep Alonso Martinez quiet, job done. That's how it comes across, until the other players prove that maybe they'll get one today. But it can't just be the odd fluke goal here and there. They have to be consistent scorers and providers. And we don't get that from any of the wide players you've said. And we don't really get it from the central midfield players either. We don't get it from Maxi Morales. We don't get it from Keaton Parks. We're not likely to get it from Johnny Shaw, and he's 17 years old or 18. You couldn't expect that from
And what
him.
we're getting from Morales is he's actually one of the league leaders in crossing the ball, and he's put a number of accurate balls into the area, and it's a matter of converting it as well.
Yes.
To make the statement even more clear, if you look at the lower third, if you're watching this, you're going to see the starting 11 for New York City FC. And it certainly has the appearance of 3 at the back with Hack, Gray, and Martins. Wing backs are going to be Hannes Wolf and Julian Fernandez. But we see Andres Pereira, who is going to be in a more forward-thinking role today. And he is the guy who it appears is going to be counted on more than any other player to provide support to Alonso Martinez, along with the wing backs who will be forward and along with Maxi Morales. But very interesting and somewhat of a statement, I think, from Pascal Janssen when you consider that you do have a second striker on your bench, Monsef Bakrar, but we reviewed that he's failed to score in 278 minutes.
I would like to hope that Pereira isn't a second centre forward. I don't want him too easily picked up because he's not a true number 9. If he just goes and stands up there, he hasn't got the movement to trouble Miazga and Hagland and Robinson. But what will trouble them is those late runs into the box. Lampard-esque runs, Tim Cahill, when Cahill was playing for Everton or here at the Red Bulls, or Lampard at Chelsea or here at NYCFC. Minimally, I know.
Maybe he and Parks alternate. Maybe he'll be more of an 8 with Parks, and those guys will be,
having played as a centre-half or as a full-back, I know that they're the hardest ones to pick up, because when the ball goes wide, automatically you focus on the ball that's out wide and you take your eye off maybe slightly off those late runs coming in at the edge of the box. The centre forwards you automatically just clamp onto, but make those late runs. They're really hard to pick up. And then it's up to the midfielders to track those runners. And it's very rare that midfielders do track those runners. So if Pereira can make those late runs into the box, as you say, with Keaton Parks as well, then yes, maybe that can work. But I'm looking at that formation, Glenn. And not that formations overly matter, but if I had to put a figure on it, I'd be saying this is a 3-6-1 formation.
Right.
And the centre of the park is going to be clogged up.
That's the way I saw it too. Well, it's going to be interesting to watch, and certainly just trying to sort out a way to beat the top team in the East. Now, Pat Noonan's FC Cincinnati have won 5 straight, all by a single goal. I got on his presser on Friday morning before they trained and really wanted to know what he thought about all these 1-goal victories.
Our box defending's been very strong. We've struggled at times in some of these games with decision making, and it's led to us having to defend in transition. But I think, our back line, Roman and goal, the 2 holding midfielders specifically understanding how to delay in certain moments, understanding how to block crosses, block shots. The commitment's been excellent. And so there's been a lot of moments where I think, we could have been exposed or conceded a goal, but, they've done an excellent job in those moments, and I think that's
that's Pat Noonan, FC Cincinnati coach. So he's talking Nick Hagland, Matt Miazga, Miles Robinson. They play 3 at the back. Miles Robinson, Matt Miazga, 2 of the best players in the air in MLS. Roman Celentano has been a stalwart goalkeeper since coming out of Indiana University and taking over the top job here. And the holding midfielder area, that's where it gets not dicey, but interesting, because Wobodo, the normal number 6, he injured himself during training this week, so he didn't even make the trip here. And so Tom Bryan Anunga, along with Yuya Kubo, who's been all over the place in the midfield, they're going to try to hold things up in there. And Anunga, he's played significantly because Wobodo's been in and out with injuries. So, but there it is. And what Pascal Janssen said when I relayed this to him, what Pat Noonan had said, he goes, well, it's not surprising that he would look at the spine of his team and say, yes, that's where we're having success.
And look, I'll go one further. It's the two penalty areas. They're great in both penalty areas. So it's very hard to fail when you're really good in both penalty areas. You've said the back three, the goalkeeper, so that's a solid back four. And then you add to that Denke, Evander, and Olejano playing up front as well. You've got an incredibly strong side. Yeah, the weakest part of the side is the four across the middle of the park. And they are all pretty experienced players. Maybe not so much in MLS, but they're four very experienced players. I think it's going to be very, very hard here for NYCFC today because FC Cincinnati are a good team away from home. They were the second best team away from home in 2024. 11 wins out of 17 away from home. They didn't just go away from home and pick up points here and there. They went away from home and won. Way more than 50% of their games away from home in 2024 they won. They got 35 points away from home last season. This side likes to be on the road.
And this one goal thing, winning by a single goal. Yes. They're 6-0 now in one goal games in 25. They are 34-8 in single goal victories since 2023. By miles, the most one goal wins in MLS. I think the next closest club has 21 goal victories in that period of time. So they've got 14 more. So that certainly speaks to, I think teams that win by one frequently, there's something to be said there.
There's a strong mentality.
Yeah, especially.
Breeding, winning breeds winning. But if you've just got that mentality that you're going to keep things at 0-0 and then nick a goal and win 1-0. George Graham's Arsenal always used to do it. Always. They used to be called boring Arsenal. They'd win 1-0 every week, but then they'd win the championship, or not the championship, but the Premier League, win the title. It's not boring. If you win games every week, whether it's 1-0 or 5-0, if you win every week and then you win the title, that's not boring at all. Certainly not in my opinion, because you play to win. And then you play to win titles, to win trophies, and they do that. And Cincinnati did it. Even last year when they won 11 of 17 games away from home, they scored 32, but they conceded 26. They only conceded 6 less than they scored, yet they won 11 of their 17 games. So that just shows you they know how to grind out wins.
And they've got 2 new attacking players this year, Kevin Denke and Evander, both with 6 goals. One thing that Pat Noonan mentioned during his presser before I got a chance to ask him a question was he just sort of on the side said regarding Alonso Martinez of New York City, I scouted him when I was with Philadelphia. Noonan was a 4-year assistant to Jim Curtin with the Philadelphia Union. So I want to go back and I asked him about that. I said, well, where did you see him? And it turns out that it was at Alajuelense in Costa Rica. But here's what he had to say about Martinez.
Yeah, it was he was a name that popped up, and I just remember me specifically. We were watching a Champions League game at the time, Champions Cup now, but just really liking the way he moved, the way he played. I think he was on the right wing at the time. I can't remember the opponent, but it was just a name that was interesting, and watching him play at that time, he stood out. And so, I'm not sure if the conversations went that far. This was just my own personal views, but I do know his name was brought up, and I think since that time he's certainly continued to improve and been a very good player for NYC.
I didn't have a chance for a follow-up, but he made it sound like he liked him more than maybe others in the group, whether it was Ernst Tanner or who it might be. And but Martinez now with New York City FC, and a good thing.
Well, he was right. He was right that Alonso Martinez is a good player, and yes, but as we talked about earlier, he's the one person you need to keep quiet. It's him and him alone, and until the other guys surrounding him, Morales, Pereira today, Hannes Wolf, Fernandez coming in off the line or playing in wing backs. That they've got to provide goals. It can't be assists. They've got to start providing goals for this NYCFC team to get back to winning ways, really. I know they won in the last game, but I mean, a majority of games winning. Right now, it's not. They've lost as many games as they've won. You've got to obviously win more games of football than you lose to do well in the league.
Well, here at Citi Field, New York City, 10 wins, 3 losses, 6 draws in Queens when they've played here at home. 7 of those 10 wins have been clean sheets, which is interesting on the smaller pitch here at Citi Field as well. So it's a huge match. It'll be huge to see if Alonso Martinez can get the support necessary for New York City to beat one of the best teams in MLS. You can't argue that. It's the first place FC Cincinnati in the Eastern Conference. Next, I just wanted to recognize Anton Tinnerholm.
Yeah.
And I got up very early the other morning because he was announcing his retirement from football. He's at Malmo in Sweden, which is where he returned after he finished up his time with the New York City Football Club. And I thought it would be interesting to share what he some things about New York and the supporters here. And as always, Anton had a very thoughtful response to that. So let's see this. This is from an interview I did with Anton. If you go online, NYCFC Views is the weekly podcast I do with Roberto Abramowitz, and the full interview is there. But here's Anton.
I've been honest to them and said, like, you can't really compare, like, the American supporter culture to the Swedish one, because here it's like a lifestyle and it's so much more. And, like, there is, like, so much more people caring about it, and that it's like organizations around it, and yeah, you're getting better and better in the States, but you can't really compare. But the people I met in New York, the fans, I was even there and like painting like a flag or whatever one time to help them. But like I really appreciate what they're doing, because it's almost like I appreciate what they're doing more than what they're doing here, because there's not that many people who cares. In here it's like everyone cares, right. But in New York it's just not just a few, but like if you compare to how many people living in the city, you can't really compare it to here. So what they did and like how they've been supporting us has been great. But I've been telling them from the start, like, it's not easy to do to put up a fantastic atmosphere in the like Yankee Stadium. It went better on like Citi Field, way better. I like the atmosphere way better there, but they really needed a stadium, and they really got what they deserve now. So I can't wait for the opening game there. I really gonna try my best to be there at the opening game, because then the fans and everyone else have the chance to get like an electric atmosphere at the stadium. But like I said, I really appreciate the people working hard around the club as well, like the fans. They do a lot of work and support that you don't see. You just see it like a flag and the opening minutes of a game, and you don't see more. But there is so much more connected to that.
And what I had told him as a follow-up is that New York City, I've been told, is number 2 in the average number of supporters who travel to road matches. And we've seen that ourselves, obviously, since we're with the club on the road. And so Anton Tinnerholm paying tribute. And yeah, I would say it would be great to have a lot of alum here for that first game over the top of the right field seats here at Citi Field across Seaver Way. That's where the new stadium is being constructed here in Queens. But would it be nice to see Anton and a whole slew of them? Collins. I'm going to leave a lot of people out, so I'm going to stop there.
Absolutely. Look, I think what NYCFC do well is they do remember, the alum, as you say, past players. And I think that is certainly something that would happen. And you're absolutely right. That first game, I would like to see the first game played and it be the first game of the season. I know it doesn't look as though that's going to be the case, right? It looks as though it's going to be kind of mid-season. Maybe wait till the beginning.
Well, the last we heard was 5 weeks ahead of schedule. Now, I don't know exactly what that means in terms of the opening, but
look,
it's better than being behind schedule.
It is. Look, either way, I think the first game of the 27 or the first game of the 28 season, which whatever it is, in that new stadium, and just get, as you say, it could be 50, it could be 100 players, but of course you want to get people like Tinnerholm. For me, Alex Ring, and as you say, I'm going to leave out a load, but
I want Jeb Brovsky. I want
and the
Kwame
people from
Cerebro.
2015 as well.
Yeah.
The people who really
That's right.
got the ball rolling.
Exactly.
Here. And for me as well, it's not just the players. It's members of staff who've maybe moved on. It's maybe supporters who have moved elsewhere in the world, or supporters of NYCFC who are in foreign countries. I know we've had on a guy from Portsmouth in the UK was on, and I'm not saying that you're flying everybody in from around the world.
Barney, if you're listening.
But it would be nice to get a smattering of fans from elsewhere as well, and just make it a momentous occasion. Look, make it not just a momentous first game in the new stadium, but the whole season, Glenn, and then moving on, obviously, into the first decade, into the first 20 years, into the new stadium.
All right. Final thing from me, and then we've got to stop and get ready for our pregame show, which begins in just a few minutes on the New York City FC network, the radio network, digital, New York City FC app, TuneIn app, MLS Season Pass today on Apple TV. If you're watching it, you can go to that bottom right corner, drop down feature, and put on Hometown English commentary, and also Sirius XM FC channel 157. Carly Lloyd, one of my former players at Rutgers University yesterday, inducted into the National Soccer Hall of Fame in her first year of eligibility. One of the greats in the history of the U.S. women, all-time leading scorer at Rutgers. She's been a great player every step of the way, along with Chris Armas, Nick Raimondo, Mark Abbott, and Mary Harvey. Armas, it was interesting. They let him speak first because he had a game to coach. They went up 1-0 and then lost to DC United at Audi Field 2-1. So a high and a low for Chris Armas yesterday getting inducted. But for Carly, I would say I would really suggest to go back and watch her acceptance speech. Very revealing. She is a driven person, a driven player, and has often been criticized by some of her behaviors, but I think she explains a lot of it in her acceptance speech. So I would just encourage you to go back and listen to all of them, because it's massive to be inducted into this.
Yeah, it really is. It's fantastic. And as you say, I didn't listen to that speech, but I will, because I know you speak very, very highly of Carly Lloyd. And I always like listening about women's perspective as well on life and how they got to be where they are as well.
Well, and her story to close is, comes with a lot of emotion. She was detached, separated from her family for close to a dozen years for particular reasons, and she goes into that also in the acceptance speech. All right, so here at Citi Field, let's look at it. There it is, baby, and it's Star Wars Day. And I was hoping to get a picture of someone in their uniform, but it didn't quite work out. Anyway, it is Star Wars Day here at Citi Field, but more importantly, it's New York City playing host to the first place FC Cincinnati, 2:45 Eastern. The live commentary begins. The full pregame show interview with Pascal Janssen ahead. So for Matty, I'm Glenn. Thanks for joining us here, and look forward to talking to you during the game. Have a good day, everybody.